Sci-Fi. Hey everybody, welcome to Real Life Sci-Fi with Wade and Willie. I'm Wade.
I'm Willie.
This is a podcast about the paranormal and contemporary mythology. Join us on patreon.com/reallifesci-fi for access to 2 bonus episodes a week, video feeds, and more. And visit RealLifeSciFi.show for all of our links to various things. If you have a topic or guest you want us to cover, email us at wadeandwilly@gmail.com. Or use the Discord, but tag us, because I don't check it if you don't tag us. And by the way, Discord, tag me all the time. I'm just sitting around. I'll always see it. Let's welcome aboard to the SSRLSF. He's a conscious content creator and high vibe music artist. You can find him on his YouTube, which is called Cosmic Trill. Welcome aboard, Trill.
Thank you. Great to be
Thanks
here.
for being here, man.
What's up, dude?
Oh, my pleasure, man. My pleasure.
So I've learned a little bit about you in the 5 minutes we've been talking before the show started. I'm intrigued because through the course of this podcast and my life in general, I've tried to focus on being a more positive person, right?
Yeah.
Because negativity breeds negativity, and fuck that. But here's the thing. I haven't seen any benefits. My life has gotten worse, I think, since I became a more positive person. But is that what we're doing? Is that what this high vibe shit is? Is it affirmations and positivity? Or just explain it to me a little bit.
Well, I think it's interesting what you just said, because I've not really ever heard of that, where you think more positively and things get bad. I think, we'll put it this way.
What's up with that?
There was a kicker yesterday, the Colts kicker, whose furthest kick is 57 yards, and he wanted to go have a chance to win the game. They didn't win, but he kicked a 60-yard field goal. And right before he did it, he went on the field, he looked at it, he kind of pointed this way, and he visualized it going further than he's ever kicked before, ever in any of his games. And then when they brought him out, he did what was seemingly impossible to him. So to me, that's a good example of how positive visualization creates some momentum towards that ultimate reality. Whereas if you think of it negatively, I have to tell you, my experience is our lives are very much dependent on our thoughts, and the power of sound and words in particular has a very big impact on us. So for example, I knew a kid who would just constantly be clumsy his whole life. He would run up the stairs, he'd find a reason to trip. He's like, oh, I'm just so clumsy. I'm just so clumsy. Those are words that reprogram your mind to suddenly, there's no reason for you to fall, but it's in your programming now. So now you're walking across the street and you trip and fall. It's you can change that. But if you start doing that for too much, it will bring your, quote unquote, bring your vibration down. And now you're inviting all kinds of things like that. That's the way I see it.
I believe in this too. And the universe doesn't know what a negative is. So we did this on accident. We kept saying, oh, we don't want you to be sick for your birthday. Well, it's the subject is still sick for your birthday. And so Moose was really sick for his birthday, and we had to cancel a party. And I don't blame us, but I'm going I don't also just take away the idea that we didn't magic this into the universe by saying it too much.
Come on.
I do have an example that we'll get to, I'm sure. But in general, I just feel it's just totally proof in so many ways that if you just continue to say things in a negative way, you're going to start believing those things. For example, if someone just oh, no girl ever wants to talk to me. I'm the guy that no one wants to talk to, or I'm not funny, or whatever, these kind of things, just you will program your subconscious mind to make it happen. I once read this book back in high school. It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. It was written by Joseph Murphy. And in that, he basically talks about how 88% of our brains are subconscious and only 12% are conscious. And a subconscious mind is almost like a computer that just stores the information of your constant reality. And that does include affirmations or deprecations. If you're out there constantly saying things negative to yourself, you're programming those experiences to happen in your life.
Yeah, but otherwise you sound like an idiot and a moron. Who wants to hang out with someone who's just going around being all like, "Hi, oh, hey, dude, we're gonna get beers so quick at this bar because I'm believing it." I'd be like, "Bro, shut
I
up."
will say this. It's more of a, I would think it's first and foremost more of a personal thing. I'll give you another two examples of something that happens all the time. So we have a friend who almost, I would say 95%, almost to 98% of the time, wherever we meet up with him, he gets the very first parking spot that's closest to the place. No matter we come in, it might be full. We have the pretty good luck with that too. But generally speaking, someone pulls out on that first space, he pulls right in. And it's like he said, yeah, I've got one superpower. A long time ago, I had to get somewhere and I just made it a thing where I'm like, I've got to get the best space. And ever since then, I just always seemingly get the best space. It's been going on for 25 years. Like
Yeah,
weird things like that.
what he doesn't tell you is he's actually just sitting around the corner, just waiting. He gets there a half hour early so that he can see the spot and then go and take it. No, the parking thing. I mean, Seinfeld did the episode about that, right? Where George was just like willing parking spots. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Seinfeld, but I don't remember that. But
there was one episode. It wasn't even a plot line. He was just getting all the parking spots.
He started saying the opposite of what he thought, and then that would all come true.
Oh, it was this. So it was this. That's what that Seinfeld episode was about. It was about like manifesting shit, basically. So
he said the opposite though? He would say the opposite, and
he would say the opposite of whatever because that's the comedy element. He would just say the opposite of whatever he would normally say. So he goes up to a woman and he says, like, "My name is George. I'm bald and I live with my mother," or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
"I'm unemployed and I live with my mother." And she like kicks the chair out and goes, "Sit down," which is like, it's hilarious. But like, yeah, so he's like willing parking spots and stuff. Dude, I've been trying, man. None of this shit works for me. And like, do you think, I don't want to get too into this because there's like more preamble that we need to do, but like, I guess my thing is like, because I don't really believe in it, it's not working. And so like, why even fucking try? Because I did try and it doesn't work. You know?
Let me ask you a question though, because what I remember about what I know from you for Channel 101, the characters you usually play are the sort of bitter skeptic, the guy who's going to, at least in business, I remember your character there was, you're not compassionate to the person you're competing with. You just want to, get what you want to get. Kind of selfish. You're playing like a character like that. Not to say that you are like that, but does not a lot of your humor come from playing a character that's kind of skeptical, cynical, cutthroat?
Yeah, I mean, I lean that way. I lean sort of like, I think the characters that that resonate with me are the kind of gruff guys who actually are very caring and like love puppies. And so
rough on the outside, sweet on the inside.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of this is like a self-defense thing, but like that's what it is. It's just like, oh, well, if I'm just like negative about everything, then like no one will care about the things that I say. I don't know. It's just a shield. But
it's a defense mechanism. But I do think when you have that, you're building this wall that on some level, in a weird way, I would say, and if you guys are familiar with the 8 characters of comedy, I would say that the biggest skeptic is really the inverse, which is a believer who once believed and really hoped and it didn't work out. So now they take all that and they flip it to the opposite. And now they're just bitter skeptic, let's say. That means deep down, you are a believer. You want to believe. You're like,
I know. And that's why it's so upsetting that like none of this shit works.
But I will just say to you that like, before we get into like the experience that I had that kind of proves it to me, I believe what's true for each person. You've heard that quote, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. It's actually Henry Ford, but I believe it was originally said by Confucius.
I've been hearing it a lot lately. It's weird that you're saying it because I've heard it like over the past 3, it must be in a commercial or something. I swear I've heard it a bunch.
Yeah, but I think that is like the main point is that I think that's what separates some athletes, for example. It's not Michael Jordan has a talent or had a talent that was next level, but there's a lot of really good athletes who, let's say they're equally talented. What separates one who's going to actually go down and win the game in the last second versus the one who doesn't? Some of that is just some deep belief, some visualization. I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers fan, but I know he once said he would visualize things back in his Super Bowl year where he would just see the outcomes happening and each pass getting where they need to go. He had an incredible season and an incredible win. So
don't tell me you're You're not a Rogers. Well, who's your football team? Who's your NFL team?
Well, keep in mind, as a former professional sports handicapper, I would be the fan of the teams I thought would win and cover the spread.
Right.
But if you ask me who do I like, I like the LA Rams now just because only because I'm in LA
Sure.
and I do like what they're about. I really like what Sean McVay does. And I like Stafford as one of the best passers. I love his no-look passes. But, I can tell you right now, the Broncos and the Patriots are the best two teams. And maybe the Broncos are the best team. We'll see. You don't have to get into football, but that's, I can still be honest and tell you what I think. I think the NFC is.
Yeah. So, but you don't have any from like child. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in New York suburbs and then Maryland. So my dad has always been a New York fan. He's a fan of like the Yankees and he's a fan of the Bills because he went to school in Buffalo.
Oh,
My
okay.
brother from our Maryland stint's a fan of the Ravens. I did not get into this until way later. Like they had already like been fans of sports. I got into this because I was just like looking for a new career path. I had just quit a job and I said exactly these things. I said, I'm going to wait for the opportunity to be able to work one day and have it paid as much as I would work for a week. So let me find that job. And I just was open to anything. I took I went on a few interviews. This is way back when. Took jobs like sales jobs or jobs where someone's like, here's what I need you to do. I'm like, okay, but how much can I get paid? And do I have to come in at 6 a.m? They're like, yeah. I'm like, that's not going to be right for me. So I just waited. And then one day, and by the way, I didn't like sports. I mean, I didn't. And here's a weird thing. I also never listened to AM radio. But one day I'm just driving and somehow I accidentally hit AM radio in my car. And I hear this guy talking about professional sports handicapping and how, hey, go 3-0 this weekend. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, I got a lock. They're very salesy and stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like, what is this stuff? I never heard of this. So they're like, go visit this website. I'm like, okay, I'm just intrigued because how did I end up on this AM radio station? So I went in, I typed it, and I read all about what a professional sports handicapper does, how they analyze the lines, what the odds makers make, and they predict and give their reasons why their play will win. And I was just like, if there's intuition in this, I've always had good intuition. Maybe I'll just see, what this is. And I didn't play that guy's plays. I just became aware of it that day. My very first play was actually a tennis play. I've only ever played one, and that was the only time. And I literally did this based on a little logic, a little bit of intuition. It was way back in the U.S. Open when it was women's tennis. Justina Anna Arden and we got the other Kim Kleister.
I'm guessing
Kleister
didn't win.
She was the number one in the world. She was like dominating everything. And Justine, I watched her play. The one thing we used to do is we used to go see the U.S. Open because when we lived in New York, we'd see it every now and then. So I was raised a little bit on tennis. So I watched Justine battle and win her match. And then I know she's about to go face Kim Kleisters in the finals. And that night I hear that she was exhausted. She was up all night getting IVs and that she might not play. And I said, the light bulb hit me. I go, nope. I just intuitively and logically, she's going to play and she's going to win. And the reason is the logical thing was I watched her battle like crazy. Keep in mind, I didn't know who these people were. I didn't know either person at that time. I just watched it thinking, could I ever do sports capping? And I saw how hard she fought. So that was the logical. The intuition was when they say she's up all night, she may not play tomorrow. Something hit me deeply in my gut. And I said, I'm going to go throw some money on it. I remember I played $50 to win $87.50 on the underdog. I put in $100. I put the play on there and I watched and she won. And I was like, now, is this a fluke? Is this intuition? Is this logical? What is this? But it got me into looking at baseball at the time. And then I just went on this run where I was just like winning nonstop. And it was a little bit of logic, a little bit of intuition.
The reason I don't bet on tennis is because I never understand the spreads because they're always like Martina Navratilova by Love. And I'm like, I thought Love meant 0 plus or minus 15. Sorry. Just a dumb joke about how their fucking scoring is. They don't do spreads, right? Or do they do like
I don't think they do. I think they do like
sets?
I don't know. Like I said, I only played that one play. But like I can tell you in baseball, it's basically
baseball is like
win by 1 run
every time or something. It's always the same, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. So it's either you win straight up and then you play either like if the Yankees are doing well or the Dodgers, let's say the Dodgers, they might be minus 400 to win 100 because they have the best pitcher against an inferior team. Whereas if they're in an evenly matched kind of situation, it just could be 100 to win 100. Usually it's actually 110 to win 100. However, there is something called the run line. Now, the run line means you're betting for them to win by more than 2 runs. And so that usually gets you better odds, but now you're like hoping that they blow them out. So that's how baseball works. Yeah.
So you got into baseball, and I'm guessing you did well.
Yeah, I went on a really good tear that year. This is an interesting story because this really, my whole belief about life and how this relates to high vibe and consciousness is it's supposed to be a balance of logic and intuition. Too many times we default to logic and we just let doctors tell us what's true and that's what we do. Or we just say, well, logic says this, but I'm just going to for whatever reason, I maybe want this to be true. I'm going to just trust the gut. And then you throw logic out the window. But if you can find that balance of where logic says one thing and intuition really validates it hard, you can feel pretty confident about the decisions you make in life. And I've had really great experiences with capping games because in baseball, I did literally all I did at that time for like 2 or 3 months was I just looked at all of the, like, who is the pitching matchup? What is their record? Where is it being played? And I might read one little paragraph from somebody who wrote a blurb about, they're better on the road or whatever. They have a good record against this team. So I go, okay, that's a piece of logic. And unless I have something like intuitively says, I don't know, maybe don't do it. I just went for it. And I was on, beginner's luck for a while. I had this incredible record. Once I switched to football, a sport I knew nothing about at the time, I got killed for a while because I was just like, the Broncos, they're a Mile High Stadium. The Patriots are visiting them. They're going to get crushed. And then the Patriots had that year where they went all the way and won the Super Bowl. And I do remember they beat the Broncos. And I was like, how come they beat the Broncos? What is it? Why are they -6 if they're on the road? I didn't understand that. So I finally reached out to this sports capper on that website who kind of taught me how to sort of weigh some of the logic with other factors. So once I got that symmetry, I kind of realized how to do it. Because if too much logic, I lost myself in the numbers at one point, you lose sight of the other side. And if you just go by gut or what you want to happen, that never works. You got to find the balance.
But it's easy when your intuition and the logic are lining up. But intuition and logic so frequently are battling. Like, how do you know which?
I will tell you, I mean, without going into specific examples of sports, I'll just tell you generically. I've had many times, not many times, like maybe 20% or less of the times, where I felt pretty good. The logic was overwhelming and I sort of felt pretty good. But when I went to go put my play out to my clients and say, hey, let's take this team, something just like, just shot up in my gut. I'm like, that's not going to work. Something's wrong. So then I take a step back and go, wait a minute. Why am I hesitant to do this? What is going on? And then I just sort of do a little more research to try and reassure the logical mind. But then it would still make me feel uneasy. That is like a 5% of this equation. But I let that intuitive feeling override 90% logic, 95% logic. And those were the times I was right. It's like a contrarian play against all my experts, and I would beat them, even though it would make no sense. Like, why would you take this in this situation? I don't know why. But here's something that my mentor
felt the flow of the universe. Boop.
Yeah, he told me that you can make the numbers say anything. So if you're going to write a report and have your clients look at it, you can find numbers that support your position. But the most important thing, and I asked him, I said, listen, there are times when I just I see something, but I feel very uneasy and something makes me think the other side is going to win. It's rare, but it happened. And I said, what do I do about that? He goes, if you are winning that way, just trust it, but don't ever tell your clients that you have a gut instinct because, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody, not even my people who are more open to this high vibe mindset. They don't want to hear that. Yeah. They want to hear that you've weighed both sides.
The research.
Okay. Well, listen, we've got to do a thing here on the show called the Wow Scale. Wow Scale. 5-question quiz. At the end of the quiz, I will give you a score anywhere between 0 and 5. If you're more of a 0, you're more of a Wade. If you're more of a 5, you're more of a Willy. Are you ready to be Wade on the Wow Scale?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. First question, 3-parter. Do you believe in aliens? If so, have they visited Earth? If so, have they visited Earth in the last 300 years or so?
I believe yes, and yes. I do believe they exist.
Shit.
I do believe they visited Earth. I'll tell you something funny that just real quick about that, which is that my dad used to be a corporate president of a company. He's a corporate America guy, super logical, super everything. Unfortunately, not spiritual. Kind of thinks that when we die, we just turn to dust eventually.
Yeah.
But he does believe adamantly that, yes, there are extraterrestrials and he's been saying this his whole life, and I don't even know why. He hasn't had an encounter. He just thinks there has to be. So that's the one thing I think is really funny, that he fits everything you would expect from a corporate America guy, but he believes in aliens. It's not that he conveyed this to me. I just see that there's been enough proof and enough reason to believe that there would be some intelligent life out there, and that they've been here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the second question is ghost. Do you have an encounter with a ghost?
No, I don't have an encounter with ghosts. No, I will say that, like, when you go into deep meditation, and this is the thing I was going to say for you, I find that people who are very skeptical, if they just sort of unplug from all the stimulus that's flying around here in our reality, commercials, electromagnetic signals, whatever it is, you just go in and actually go deep into meditation. You kind of start seeing things from an energetic point of view. In that realm, one can experience, as I have, like, entities of whatever they are, that kind of, you get information from wherever, like whatever it is. I can't quantify that. I can't say exactly what it is. It's not aliens, I don't think. I don't know what it is. But let's just say that this whole thing is a simulation. Then if that is the case, which some scientists believe, then
yeah, no, I believe in that. I mean, well, I did until all my manifestations didn't manifest.
Yeah, so no, I've not had, no ghosts have ever talked to me. I've never seen a ghost.
Let me just, do you believe in ghosts?
I mean, I do believe there's some, energy out there, but like I've never seen one, so I don't have any personal experience with that. And I really can't say whether or not I know if what's that guy, Tyler Henry, the guy who looks like Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone. He's like the sort of a medium to the stars.
The Hollywood, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him do some things. I don't know how real it is, but if it's real, then that says something. He's communicating with people's. I saw him do an episode with Jeannie Buss, the former owner of the Lakers, where he doesn't even know who Jerry Buss is, and he's like basically saying, "Oh, there's this person. I think he might be."
Oh my
dad.
God, he does look like Macaulay Culkin. If Macaulay Culkin didn't grow up to be weird looking, he would have looked like this.
Totally.
I'm sorry, I don't know him, so I just had to look him up.
Oh yeah. I have no idea if that's actually true, but you can look at his videos. He's got tons of different people, celebrities who he's done this to, and a lot of them are like, "I'm skeptical, just so you know." And I think Dr. Drew, maybe he did something with. I've never seen that episode, but I think he has won people over. So I have to assume that he wouldn't have a reputation if he's just making this up. I don't know though. I've never had that experience.
All right, so we'll say yes for ghosts. What about Bigfoot? You believe in Bigfoot?
So no, that is an absolute yes. And I know that you have a Bigfoot back there, and there's a reason why. I do believe in Bigfoot. I already believe in it for a different reason. I'm a big fan of Dr. Jeff Meldrum. You know who he is, Willie?
Yeah, he was a professor that was studying Bigfoot. Yeah, go on.
He just passed away recently, like within the last month. But he was the biggest expert in the subject. And he, you know who Jane Goodall is, you guys?
Yeah, the monkey talker.
Yeah, she lived with gorillas, and she shared many stories about how you can walk in the woods out there when she did. And she goes like, I didn't learn this for like years, that they are so stealth. They could be standing right behind you, like just next to a tree, and you would not even notice they're there. And eventually they showed me, they revealed themselves to me. And she said, first of all, they didn't even know that they lived up in those mountains. There was rumors that these silverback gorillas lived up in the mountains there, and nobody believed them. And she said, let's go and see. And so she spent time up in there, acclimating herself, getting them sort of like used to her presence. Then one by one, they sort of revealed themselves. And then eventually, like a year plus into it, she said, I had no idea that they could be literally 5 feet from me, and I didn't even know they were there. They just are so expert at being stealth and hiding. So if you ask her, do you believe in Bigfoot? She says, it's an absolute possibility, because there are many species we didn't know existed until we did.
What about humans' ability to know when we're being hunted and feel eyeballs on us? Does that not come into play at all? I don't know. I mean,
well, I just watched a lot of these things, and I'm assuming, Willie, you're going to chime in on this, right? Aren't you a believer in Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Well, I try to keep him quiet for the WoW scale because he eats up a lot of time by pontificating. And we're supposed to get through this quickly.
I will tell you this, then.
I'm looking at the clock and going like, holy shit, what time did we start?
I'm sure you want to hear this.
Go on.
When I was in Sequoia National Park with my wife 6 years ago or something, we were hiking Tomorrow Rock, and on the way back, we kind of went this other way. I'm not saying I saw a Bigfoot, but the behaviors they described, this was before I got interested in it, I experienced something. And that was, I went way off the trail to go take a leak because I couldn't wait till we got back to the car. I kind of approached this swampy area, and there's this gigantic boulder over there. And at a certain point, I kind of was walking over, and then I kind of just took a few more steps, and out of nowhere, I hear this bang of a rock, like a rock against a rock. It goes like, bam. I'm like, okay. And I kind of said, I wonder what that is. So then I kind of turn, and I just take my leak, and then I go, I'm curious now. So I took a few more steps that way, and then I hear bang, bang, bang. And I'm like, okay. So then I go, now I'm curious. I'm going to go walk towards that. And the more I walked, I heard bang, bang. And I hear like, and I go, okay, I'm going to go the other way. And so I went back and I said, Irish, I just freaking heard something freaking crazy.
Is this a true story? This is true.
This is absolutely true. You can ask my wife.
That is like exactly the way people describe Bigfoot shit.
I didn't see anything.
Right.
I heard and I said,
the classic warnings.
Kept thinking, yeah, I'm saying like nobody threw anything at me, but I'm just like, why would something? It was obviously, if it was a person, it could be a person, but it's like bam, and then bam, bam, then bam, 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 then I'm like, you know what? Something about the sound, and this is people talked about infrasonic intrusion. Sure. Something just kind of resonates in you, and you go, I just feel like it's dangerous. I'm going to go the other way. That's it. I never saw anything.
Yeah, as opposed to all those wild animal growls that are very
inviting or friendly.
I would have done the same thing if I heard a bear, if I saw a bear. But, I just can't explain the banging against, like I said, there is like a rock against a rock. It's like a rock against a boulder. If you could explain that to me, I could just chalk it up to bear, wolf, or a person even, or person. But it's not like I immediately said that was Bigfoot. I just said that was weird.
It's funny because in your version, you never would have even gone that way if he hadn't done it in the first place. So like that Bigfoot is kind of an idiot.
If it even was. I'm not saying it was, but I just thought like that's just weird.
It was a Bigfoot and you got one of the dumb ones.
A lot of people say that Patty, the original Bigfoot, the one that was filmed, that why was she like so okay being on camera? If that's a Bigfoot, why is she just like walking off into the distance? Why wouldn't she just hide or not? I think if there is a Bigfoot community, they're pissed at her. They're like, why the hell didn't you just stay hidden?
She's a prima donna, man. She always wanted the limelight, and the rest of the Bigfoots are like, no, we're a fucking species that stays below the radar. And she's like, not me. My star shines too bright.
She was taking a leak.
Yeah. Well, I like Willie made a comment. We talked about Bigfoot last week, and he made a comment that it was just a furry. It was like the first furry headed to the first furry sex party. And I think that's a pretty good reason for that video. All right, let's move on. So you're across the board. You've been yeses so far. Let's see if we can change it. Was 9/11 an inside job?
I don't know for sure anything. I don't work in the government.
Do you study it or anything? Are you into 9/11?
If you just want to look at it from here and you say, when they said Building 7 collapsed, and then you see it still standing in the background, and then like 5 minutes later, then it collapsed, I can't explain how that could have been reported. The BBC reported it collapsed before it collapsed. And I will say that in the history of modern buildings,
their intuition rather than the logic.
They knew it was going to collapse. If you ask engineers, no buildings have ever like pancaked down like that. And that's another thing that I can't explain how that can happen, because if you believe in science and you believe in certain rules, then that would not make any sense. And you go, well, how did that happen? You remember when it first happened, I believe they were saying there were people reporting controlled demolitions might have happened in the buildings. So if you're asking me, do I think inside job? I don't know exactly what you mean by inside job. Was it
right?
People who worked in the trade center? Was it the government? I'm just saying, do I think it was completely the way they said it was with two planes? I'm suspicious of that.
Willie, I like the way that this question is phrased because of how ambiguous it is, and everyone seems to just kind of answer it regardless. But like, what a punch up would be is, did the planes cause the towers to fall?
Ooh,
that could be a good,
yeah.
Because we get like
the planes alone thing caused the buildings to go.
Right. Maybe just put it in your back pocket.
I would say I'd have to say no. I don't think that's possible. I don't know if you remember, there was like 100 engineers and architects who signed something back when, like a few years after 9/11. They said, just so you know, if buildings could collapse this way, we would never be able to get approval to build a building in New York, because that's not how they collapsed. They say they need to be fireproof. Remember, a
Well, I
bottler in
think
19...
at that point you got to look into kickbacks and follow the money, right? I mean, like maybe this World Trade
Larry
Center
missed
was not
one day of work, and it was that one.
All right, last question,
Okay.
and I'm very curious about this because you already brought up simulation theory. It's a cousin of simulation theory, like the multiverse. Do you think that the multiverse could exist, and do you think we could travel in between it at some point in the future?
I'm open to the possibility, but I don't have any experience with. I have experience with something called quantum shifting, but not into another multiverse reality. Unless, although I will say, what is that phrase? The Mandela effect. I do believe there's some pretty weird things that like I'll say, wait a minute, wasn't it Bernstein Bears, not Berenstain Bears? Like there are a couple little things that kind of throw me off, like the monocle on the Monopoly, and beyond that, I can't think of anything right now. But there are things that, like in my life, I sort of go, I'm pretty sure this happened. Actually, I do have one example, but I don't know what this means. If it's simulation, it makes more sense. Irish always reminds me that I said to her one day, was this bathroom drawer, was it always like this? I'm pretty sure that it looked different. It had like a wavier pattern.
Was it screaming or something? What happened to this drawer?
Suddenly I saw it differently. I was just like, I really don't remember. Not the drawer. The
dude, that shit is trippy. Yeah, when you look at something for the first time for real and you go, huh?
Oh, yeah, true. It could easily be that. I'm not saying, could easily be that. So I don't know about multiverse. I'm open to all possibilities because I don't know. Did Einstein talk about that? Did he believe in that?
I don't think that was even on his radar. Go ahead.
Well, he did the portal. He did believe in the Einstein
about. He couldn't get into quantum theory at all.
I do know that.
It didn't make sense to him, and it didn't work on paper the way.
Did it not make sense to him, or was he like, this is fucking... You guys aren't ready for this. He's like fucking Michael J. Fox. And your kids are going to love it.
I think he had his way of how he thought things worked and that there was no play for other theories.
I believe he basically, what he said was, I simply do not want to believe in the reality of a universe where it's just spooky and weird and can't be explained.
Yeah, I didn't like this randomness of the quantum field world.
Yeah, but that leads into Joe Dispenza. And I do think that that's the one big miss that Einstein had, because the observer effect is a provable effect. Science has proven that over and over and over again. And he just didn't want to accept it because it's basically like rewriting the rules that he spent his whole life trying to understand.
I mean, you can imagine what that would be like. Sentences end with a period, and then you discover you're like, oh shit, sentences end with a comma. I've got to start all over. No one's going to believe me. So you are, I mean, multiverse, what do you want to say? No, we'll put you no for the multiverse. We'll put you as a 4 just because you're hesitant, which makes you like 90% of a Willy, or however that, well, I don't know what 4/5 is, but you're close. So, Willy, introduce us to the topic, please.
Tonight on Real Life Sci-Fi, can we heal our bodies with just our mind? Well, that's what our guest did. Let's get into his story and apply it to what others like Joe Dispenza are saying. Even if it is a placebo effect, why give it a name that doesn't work when the effect itself is working? Grab a drink and let's heal ourselves tonight on Real Life Sci-Fi. I think we should just jump right into Trill's story, because then Dispenza will support him as opposed to the opposite. So take it away. Let's hear your story.
Several years ago, like around COVID, I had a horrible diagnosis. I was starting to go through a period of dizziness, vertigo, headaches, light sensitivity.
Oh shit.
Exactly. And
I have all that right now.
Well, and you should definitely benefit from this. Eventually, I didn't even want to do it because my whole life I've been very healthy. I never had any issues, but I will say that at the time I kind of was not happy with where I was in life, and I was kind of giving in more to the negative thoughts about what is this all about. And I was also in a relationship that wasn't quite as good as it could have been, which is the first time really I'd ever found myself in that situation. All these things I believe are a contributing factor. So eventually I just decided, you know what? I'm going to just tell my doctor about this and see what he says. And he immediately says, listen, I want to refer you to a neurologist. Maybe you just get like a scan, an MRI, just to make sure there's nothing wrong. By the way, that statement alone is not a simple thing. Have you ever had an MRI?
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to lay down in that metal cage, listening to that thing for 30 to 40 minutes. It's, you know,
Oh, it's
and
so
you have to,
scary. It's so tiny.
it's so tiny. It's so restricting. It's sci-fi. I'm not claustrophobic per se, but I don't like
Yeah, I
the
didn't think I was
sounds.
either. Yeah.
I know, right? Yeah, when you're sitting there and you're hearing these sounds, and and they're like, you have to stay still. It is not easy. It's not easy to relax. It wasn't at first. So anyway, they end up finding a brain tumor, not cancerous, luckily, but it's something called craniopharyngioma, which is a benign but potentially deadly tumor that's nestled between your hypothalamus and your pituitary gland. And as it was increasing with fluid, it's surrounded like a calcium core, but as it was increasing with fluid, it was causing all these symptoms for me. And they were random. Sometimes I wasn't doing anything. I was just working on a computer. All of a sudden, I feel this huge headache behind, like my eye is pulsing. I'm like, what the fuck? You know, there are times where I can only sleep on my left side. If I were to go to the right side, it'd be like spinning, 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 spinning for hours. I'm like, okay, I can't do that. I'm like going to throw up. So it was like pretty bad. And that's why I went and got this test. And the guy comes back and says, look, if this is already pretty big, it's approaching the size of like an almond or something like that. If it gets any bigger, we definitely have to operate. So what I recommend is that we just keep an eye on this for the next 3 to 6 months, and then we'll schedule a follow-up. I'm like, well, what can I do in the meantime? And they're like, well, there really isn't anything you can do. These things just happen. So, I mean, they didn't say lay off of like certain foods or anything, although that I do think that contributes sometimes. But anyway, so then when I go back, first of all, once you get this kind of a diagnosis, which is potentially life-threatening, but also they told me that if they had to do an operation, the side effects would be just as bad potentially. Aside from anything else, if it punctures either of those areas I mentioned, hypothalamus or pituitary, you could die from that. It could affect your vision, your balance. You know, all light sensitivity, by the way, I still experience that a little bit to this day, but all these symptoms were like, it was worse because they were going to have to drill through the eye to get there. There's 3 ways to go: through the eye, through the nose, or through the head. And they said for this one, because it's the most remote, like hardest to access of all tumors.
It's
So
right by
through,
the spine, isn't it? Isn't it where the brainstem connects to the spine? I'm trying to use my ninth grade biology and like remembering where the hypothalamus is. And isn't it right there? But it's not just like on the top of the skull and they're gonna like cut the skull open and like scoop it out. It's like we have to go fucking through shit.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly the point. I don't know if you guys remember, but once upon a time, lobotomies, they used to just like drill like a little metal stake through your eye. And then that would like change everything. And that's what they said. They said there's at least a 30% chance that I'm going to have a noticeable
lobotomize you.
No, not well, in a way, because they said a noticeable personality shift, meaning
you're going to be different.
You're going to be different.
Might not be you.
You know what's crazy about that is that and I already can sense that, you know, none of this happened because you healed yourself. But if you knew that you were gonna, I think I would still do it, because what if I turned into like Will Ferrell? You know, like what if I came out and I was just like the funniest dude in the world? That would be awesome. Because right now this isn't working, you know?
Well, I will say this, that once I, you know, at the time, here's the thing. When you get this at first, at least for me, my first reaction was like shock. I just was like, you know, you just like a walking zombie. You don't know how to process it. You don't know where to start. And then after
it's in every TV show when they go and they get their cancer diagnosis, the ringing starts in their ears and the voice level goes down and it becomes underwater. It was that's what happened to you.
But it wasn't cancer, just to be clear. It's benign in that sense. But it felt like a virtual punch in the stomach. Like I didn't exhale for like maybe 30 minutes. And I'm like, okay, one step at a time. And by the way, at this time, and this is an important part of the story, is I had lost touch with many of the things that had made me such a vibrant, healthy person my whole life. Like if you ask people I went to high school or college with, and you say, hey, what was he like as a kid? They'd be like, oh my God, the guy never got sick. He would fall off of like 2-story buildings and get right back up and walk. He was like invincible as a kid. Like everybody else would dealing with issues. He just seemed to be above that. But in this case, and that was another thing, by the way, it was sort of like I took it in an egotistical way. Like my ego took a big bruise. I'm like, I'm that guy, the guy who's going to get this diagnosis. Like, what? So it was really shocking. And then it was like processing emotions. But at a certain point, I realized I was like, okay, well, again, I went through a period of being kind of mad and just sort of like, why? Why does this have to happen?
Did you just do
But
the whole 5 stages of grief thing? Did you just do all of that?
yeah, and this within the same night. Yeah, I mean, I went through
You
the
speed
process.
ran it.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And so then, it just so happens that I broke up with that girl and kind of got my own space. And at that point,
You can call her a bitch if you want to.
I just sat down and I remembered that book I mentioned earlier, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And I thought, I mean, this is a fast forward, abbreviated version of the story, but basically I said, okay, I just need to right now listen to some very soothing music, just 101. I need to like
What did
unplug from
you
what the hell.
put on? Was it Enya?
That's so freaking funny, but Enya's one of the go-tos. Yeah, Enya, Enigma.
Yeah, sure.
And there's this one this one thing, I'd have to look up the playlist name, but it was just like some sort of relaxing playlist, like a 2-hour playlist I found on YouTube. And I just listened to that in the headphones. First is that.
Moods.
And then I actually said, you know what? I got to start visualizing this thing draining. They told me it looks like motor oil fluid, like thick blackish fluid. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to start imagining and visualizing that this is going to turn to clear fluid and slowly just drain out and flush out of my system.
When it comes to like envisioning and manifesting stuff, you're envisioning this toxic material within you, and you're envisioning draining it.
Right.
I would have envisioned it like pouring out of my nose. Where did it go in your thoughts?
Well,
or does that not matter? Did it just dissipate?
Well, I mean, I will say this. I will say that, like, I've never been drunk. I've never been high. I've never smoked a cigarette. So I don't have the experience of knowing what it's like to come out of like a hangover or whatever. But I will say that I've had a few too many like coffee sugar drinks. And sometimes it just goes straight to your head and you feel like, oh, fuck. And then you kind of get knocked out and then you come down from that. So I kind of thought of it as I needed to work through my system. So I'm going to let it like affect my body a little if it has to. If it has to, on its way out, make me feel different things, I'll accept that because I know I'm draining it. It's literally a visual. But the thing that I did before I understood who Joe Dispenza was I started going into this meditation world. I started listening to affirmations I wrote about healing and this kind of music. And I started just to go back to my essence and see it myself as energy. My belief, and I'm assuming Willie shares this, is that we're not bodies who may or may not have a soul. We're a soul who currently inhabits a body. Mm-hmm. Even if you believe in simulation theory, that's still the case. This is an avatar. We're in a world. So I started thinking, why don't I just see myself back as the purest form of who I think I am? So let me just see myself as the energy being. And I immediately
did you assign a color? What color was your energy?
It's not like I assigned it. I actually went up. I kind of went what I call the 5D, like the fifth dimension. I suddenly was in this place where, do you know what a Buddha brat is?
No.
You know what that is? Do you know what the Mandelbrot? You know what that is?
No.
It's like a shape that, like, well, put it this way. You like this way. Way back in the early days when they started seeing crop circles, people were like, oh, it's just this group of people who are walking around doing these things with these boards, except for one major thing, which is some of these earliest ones were in the shape of a Mandelbrot, which is like a symbol, you can look it up, a mathematical symbol that indicates intelligence. And it was almost like interpreted as some extraterrestrial intelligence was trying to communicate, letting them know we understand math, you understand math, it's a language we all understand. Here's the symbol. Yeah. So the Mandelbrot, if you turn it sideways, it kind of looks like Buddha meditating. So people call it the Buddha Brat. Now, for whatever reason, when I went up into this fifth dimensional like safe haven, I saw myself as an energetic form, not quite as heavy as Buddha, but in that form. And I could see things there that I didn't think I was creating. I was just experiencing. And I was like, oh, is this what I look like in energy form? Okay. And I could see multiple colors.
I'm ugly. There's like a mirror that comes up and like some other energy being comes around and is like, you could use a trim, sir. And you're like, well, I don't know the rules. Sorry, go on.
Okay, but I think that's important. I think like I'm not saying I'm trying to see the best version of myself because I wasn't consciously doing that. I was just going into this place. And then I discovered it and I saw it and I'm like, oh, so this is what I look like in energy form. And it's mostly like what you'd expect, like, white with some gold. And And then I could see some other colors. And the weirdest thing is that as I got closer, I could hear things that are not things that you hear like in, the way we hear things. It was like, have you ever heard of like, intervals on music? There's like a key. But there's micro, I forgot the word, microtones, I think. It's like notes between notes. So
Oh
you can
yeah.
slice it even
Okay.
thinner.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could hear these sounds that, and again, this is just my experience, but I'm hearing these sounds, I'm seeing these visuals, and I'm just like, what is this? And it's almost like the higher self, the highest version of me as energy, was kind of leading me into this place to reconnect, almost like docking a ship to get it refueled, re-energized. So it's like, if you can think of it that way, it becomes like, okay, I sort of see my energetic self and I see that there is this sort of black spot, and I could just drain it. I can just eviscerate it. So I started believing in that. Fast forward, I really was doing a lot of work like that. I was reconnecting with nature. I was starting to be creative just for fun. Not
This
for
is
any,
where
like,
are you
project.
living at this point?
North Hollywood. Yeah, I
Okay.
moved into.
Okay. Not a
Yeah,
lot of
so
nature to reconvene with. So you had to drive a little bit.
I had to drive a lot. Yeah, I had to get out of the area. Switzer Falls. That area, just the Angeles
Yeah.
National Forest.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like, and Griffith Park has some places,
Sure.
and
Sure.
really
Sure.
anything in Griffith Park is, you can find pockets. So I would do some of those strolls and reconnecting, and obviously eventually it led to, like, my wife and I take trips every autumn and multiple times a year to all the national parks, different places, just for that reason, because it really helps reset, the balance. And yeah, so this process that I kept going through, I felt like I was onto something. And then when the next MRI came, I kind of had a quiet confidence it would be good.
This
But
is 3 months
unfortunately,
later or
I
so.
think it was like 4 or 5 months later.
Okay.
And unfortunately, it was worse at first. It was
Hmm.
like, it had gotten to a point where they said, we need to get you prepped. You need to go visit an endocrinologist, an optoneurologist. We need to talk about how to
Surgery
do this
time.
immediately. Yeah. And I was like, on one hand, I was shocked like I was the first time. But on the other hand, there's a part of me, deeper part of me, it's like, no, 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 no. Sort of like that thing I had done as a sports capper, just dialing into this intuitive knowing and just thinking, they're wrong. Like, this is working. I know it doesn't show, but I think you're onto something. I know people have said that and they've been wrong. I don't know if you know Steve Jobs tried to do it this way.
Sure. Yeah. Well, but he wasn't using intuition. He was listening to charlatans, right?
I mean, I think he just thought he could do
Yeah.
it with diet, right?
Yeah. He was
Yes.
doing
Yes.
like some. Yeah.
So for me, I just, again, it's like a deeper gut instinct I kind of dialed into. And I thought, okay, whatever, I'll meet with these people. Unfortunately, I did have to go through the process of meeting with several different doctors, letting them do their analysis, look at
Yeah,
the
but that's
x-rays.
free because we live in America, so who cares?
Right. So after all of that, I was like, all right, meanwhile, I'm going to just continue doing what I'm doing and see, how it goes. So they're like trying to, in fact, I did sign up for a specific surgery date because they talked me into it. And I said, okay. And then as it got like, 2 or 3 weeks out, I'm like, I can't do this. So I just say, hey, I can't do this right now. I'll reschedule. And of course they hit you with you have to do it. Your life is, in danger. So I just said, no, I need a little more time. I mean, keep in mind, they do understand. I mean, there are potential huge side effects. So then I continued doing what I was doing. And I really just had this one moment, a combination of meditation and affirmation, where I just sort of felt like I crossed over the other side. I saw the other side of the curve. And I said, I really feel good about this. And I went into the next MRI feeling like I might have turned the corner. And sure enough,
Were you continuing to do after you got the bad results where
yeah.
where before you were like living in the fifth dimension and like draining your body? Did you continue to do that after you got the bad results, even though it seemingly wasn't working?
And this is the key that I'm trying to say to all skeptics and cynics out there. You have to almost be super insistent despite the evidence. You have to say, this is the reality. And to the point where you just convince that computer, the part of your brain, the subconscious mind, that it just accepts the data. I'm clumsy versus I'm lucky. When I think I'm lucky, I would go, I give you an example. I mean, I still believe I'm lucky, but when I believed back then, like, I'm super lucky and fortunate. I didn't have to say it over and over again. I just believed it because of a few experiences proved it. So then I go to this big event with the girlfriend I had at the time. She was a teacher at a college, and there was like, I don't know, I think like 400 people, like the end of the year Christmas party, and they raffle off 3 prizes. And I said, okay, well, what do we want? And like, well, the first one's a trip to San Francisco, and we always go there like a couple times a year because that's where her family's from. The second one's a big screen TV. And then there's a third one that's also electronic. I don't remember what. And maybe some gift certificates. So I said, well, we want a TV. Ours is like at the end of its life. Let's get a new TV. So she said, all right, let's do it. And so I said, all right, we're going to win this thing. So I had that mindset. I put that intention out there. I got excited about it. I sort of felt like a winner. We went to the event, and you're given one ticket per person. Now, at the event, people leave toward the end of it before they do this raffle. And so a lot of people just leave their tickets on the table, and you can collect a few tickets. Sure. So I collected I had like 4 or 5. She had 4 or 5. So we had 8 chances to win out of 400 or whatever it was. So they called the first number. I look at my ticket, and it's not that number. It's none of her numbers. And skeptic would be like, fuck this. Let's just go home. Then they call the second because nobody raised their hands. Whoever had that.
Yeah, they took off. Yeah, it's in their pocket. So then
they call again. Nobody. And we're looking. No. And I literally just said to her, this is TV's ours. We're going to win this thing. And the third ticket, my ticket. Was it my original one or was it one of the ones I picked up along the way? I don't know. I wasn't paying attention, but it doesn't matter. That's the concept of where you just have to believe despite that evidence. And I'm talking about, for me, I can only say when it was life or death, you get really focused really quickly.
Okay. So let's get back to this. So they're like, it's grown. It's now a full adult almond. We need to go through your eyeball. So go talk to the ophthalmologist or whatever and do all this shit. But you just kept kind of like believing that you were doing the right thing. And then like, how did you get out? You scheduled the surgery. So like, how did you get out of that?
Well, I just called them up and I said, guys, I can't do this right now.
Well, but then, I guess what I'm asking is like, when did you get the all clear? Like, how did that?
What was your next meeting? Yeah.
Right. So I think it was another 4 months of them constantly calling me. You got to reschedule. After I'd already pushed it back, the surgery, and I was like, I got to continue doing what I'm doing. I just felt better and better. The dizziness stopped. I didn't feel the headaches like as much. Remember, I would feel it like something pushing through the back of my right eye. Like at one point, I felt my eye could come out of my head. Yeah. So I noticed those symptoms were subsiding one by one, all but light sensitivity, which to this day I usually, have to wear sunglasses if it's too bright, all that stuff. But I just like one by one, I retreated. I felt the symptoms retreat. And then I went in and said, let's do this MRI. And I was actually excited for it. I go, let's do this. I'm excited. And I remember that was the one time I lay down in there and I actually went to that place, my 5D safe haven, and just was kind of tranquil the whole time. And it went by like this. They're like, okay, you're ready. I'm like, really? I just sat down. And they came out and they go, wow, I got to talk to, we got to get the doctor. We got to talk about this. So I sat in there and they basically said, it shrunk down to like, it wouldn't have even been noticeable to them. I mean, there's still something there, probably still right now, but it would never have even been something. If that was what it was the first time, they wouldn't have said I had any problems. Still, ironically, the opto, whatever he is, the one who goes to the eye, he said, I still think we should operate. I still think like there's fluid there. We got to drain it.
He's like, I got a bunch of money on the Jets. And you're like, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Listen, I'll pay for the surgery just by switching that bet.
Yeah, exactly. So basically he said to me, he was the only one who said, hey, actually, my regular doctor is the one who said that. He said, hey, sometimes, the mind is just more powerful and the mind can do amazing things. Like when a woman's baby is under a car, they can somehow superpower lift up a 1,000-pound car, whatever it is. It's like he's maybe more.
What nationality? I'm just curious. What nationality was your doctor who said that?
Well, you can guess. What do you think?
Well, Indian? I want to say Indian.
No. Actually, the one who said that was Latino.
Oh.
Yeah, the main doctor. The guy who said that. The other ones were different variations, but one was Asian, one was white. But
wait, why would I have guessed Latino?
No, I just figured because they're known to be the ones who have the most faith. They're always. Yeah. He was very much like, hey, man,
But Indians have that Hindu. They got the elephant guy and stuff.
I don't think so. I think the Indian doctor that I did meet once, he was very matter of fact. In fact,
because they're terrified of getting thrown out. They're terrified of getting thrown out of the country for not following whatever. This is stupid. So okay. So continue. So I mean, what's this book called? Does it have to do with the book, or is the book just like a frame of mind that, like, I mean, are you a self-help guy? Do you read a lot of those books, or is that just the one?
Here's again, this is one of those things that you would say, this is right out of a movie. Is it real? Did it happen this way? I remember I went into the bookstore when bookstores were around.
Mm.
And this is back in high school. And I was just like, I came into the bookstore going, I'm going to find a really good book that's going to just help me grow as a person. And I had no real inclination toward one thing or another. I didn't know anything about this. My parents were not spiritual in any way. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to walk in. I wasn't thinking it had to be any kind of specific thing. But as I walked down the aisle, I don't remember what the aisle was. I hear this thud. And I turn around and I go, what was that? And I say, the only book that fell on the floor is that one book, The Power of Your Subconscious
Oh,
Mind.
so this is what's the Matt McConaughey space movie? That's just you're just that.
It's Interstellar.
Interstellar.
So, yeah.
Interstellar.
So I actually really like that movie. Maybe that's why. So I pick it up and I was just like, okay, this sounds like something I'd be interested in. I mean, I was a creative guy, but I wasn't like, I didn't think of it as programming or anything. But anyway, I read that book so many times. If you look at the book, 10 years later, half of it is highlighted because I just kept going through going, oh yeah, you can say these words. Oh yeah, you can do this. And it's just the principle of like reprogramming your mind like it's a computer. And a lot of it is being defiant towards what you think is real. Like it says, I'm attractive. By the way, I used it before. That's how come I knew it worked. When I moved to California, I moved from Baltimore, Maryland suburbs. So like I kind of was like a big fish in a small pond. When I came out here, I was immediately intimidated by everything. Just so many more people, so much diversity. And I immediately felt like, wow, I'm overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start. How do I make friends? How do I do things? So I felt like I was really like becoming more condensed as a person where I just didn't want to put myself out there. So I said, you know what? I have a book that I remember. I still have it. Let me dig it out of my
Ghost
luggage.
pushed it off the shelf for me. Oh, remember
He's been
that
yelling
book?
at me ever since.
That one that came
That
to
was
me
years
like a
before
cat.
that was probably like 5 years before this. But then I dug it out and I said, now's the time to implement this. So I started doing that. I started making music, kind of background stuff, and writing these affirmations, putting myself into sort of like a meditative type trance. And within like I'd say like 2 months, 3 months maybe, I suddenly just felt like this little more confidence. And I remember I'd start talking to a girl. I'm like, yeah, this is the guy I used to be. Why did it take so damn long? And that's what I started realizing. It can work. It can like shift your mindset. So when this happened way later, I remembered that. I said, I got to get back to this. This could work. It's the only chance I have.
A lot of our experiences for most people always come down to seeing is believing. I don't believe in this. I haven't seen it. But we also don't run into situations where we get a chance to see things. So I don't know, like, sure, anybody could say it just shrunk naturally. We don't know why it got there, it went away. But I'm like, I think that we are energetic beings. And I think that focusing on our energy and our emotions onto making this thing shrink, I think is very valid. I don't think it's just a placebo effect thing. I think this is a power that we have. We just never get to use it.
When it first happened, as I told you, I felt shocked. I felt kind of like dumb or like, how did this happen to me? I was the guy who never got sick. And then I got bitter. I was mad. I was like, I can't believe that this is what's happening to me. But then once I kind of got over the hump, I realized something. I realized the power of visualization, emotionalization. I realized what we as people can do, what we can overcome. So I actually was thankful for it. I was like, God, if I could go back and not have to go through this, I would not want that. I'd want to go through this so that I can say that I know what it feels like to be down on the mat and get back up again.
Do you want to get into the guy that you brought up that I didn't know what his name is? Not okay.
I don't think it's important. I mean, basically, he ultimately had the same experience. Had some Joe Dispenza, needed a big surgery, and wanted to believe in the energy of himself being strong enough to change and alter his physical reality, and it worked for him. And so that's what he's teaching. He ended up jumping into this on accident. But ultimately, when you picture just even our bodies on the microscopic level, we are made up of just energy powerhouses running power. It's like,
what about everyone who's tried this shit that it didn't work for? I mean, like,
yeah.
And how do you kind of rectify that with this belief? Do you blame them for not having enough faith, or do you think they were doing it wrong?
Whether this whole 3D reality is a simulation, whether it's or some sort of we're a spirit and we're choosing to experience limitations, which is what I believe. Whether it's
I'm kind of there.
spiritual.
I'm kind of there. It's like I kind of feel like we all just were like, well, let's try being a human for a little bit. That might be fun. And then it's hell. I think so. It sucks. And I'm like, let's fucking not do this anymore.
Well, Jim got a mansion. What happened?
Yeah, what the fuck, Jim? We were best friends, dude.
So first of all, I would say this about that. I would say if that is the case, we have to take responsibility for our experiences in some way. Like, so for someone who came down here, had the exact same situation for me, either chose to get the operation and it saved their life or caused more problems, which by the way, I've seen that too. People who say, now I sleep 18 hours a day since I had this surgery. I can't get out of bed. I'm getting slowly better at not sleeping all the time, but I'm hearing this and I'm like, that doesn't sound like what I want to go through. He said he went through that for a full year, 18 hours a day of sleep before he finally kind of cut it down to less than that. Yeah.
You mean I can sleep 18 hours a day? That's an option?
Hell yeah. Personality shift is such a weird cover-up word.
Is that a personality shift? Are you saying they're defining sleeping too much as a personality shift?
Any change. It's like,
yeah, he said, I didn't have that problem before. He said, before going in, I was in pain, but I could go to work and get through it sometimes. Sometimes I'd have to leave or deal with issues. This is not me, this person I read his story about. Yeah. And then he said, but then after this operation, I physically didn't have any problems, but yet I just couldn't get out of bed. I was like exhausted all the time. And, he said like 18 hours a day I'd sleep and I'd get up and do whatever I could in the remaining part of the day. Anyway, the point is like, there are people who might have chosen to experience that, to say, it sounds crazy to us right now, but if we come down here to experience limitations and see if we can triumph over certain challenges, which is what I do believe, sometimes you either can't succeed or you just choose not to succeed, or you choose like whatever you can until you do. In my case,
that's kind of like why I don't respect billionaires, because I'm like, here's the way that I see the universe is like, we're all beings of light who came down here to try out humanity, and you're playing on easy mode and you set yourself up to be really good. It's like Willie playing a video game where you get all the cheat codes and you fucking type them in, and like, now you want power? Like, fuck you, man.
I mean, I agree with you there. I especially today, we're living in a time where there is so much power concentrated at the top. If you look at that just strictly 3D logical, you're like, this is not fair. Something has to change. On the other hand, perhaps we collectively allowed this situation because sometimes that will push us to find other paths towards joy and growth. And, so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's
do I want that? No. I don't want billionaires. I think like that. Yeah. I mean, and then again, there's also the point of, if it is a simulation, are they even real people, or are they just some sort of like avatar version of something that's meant to just
I'm just getting pushed so hard to see if I will take down a billionaire. That's my
dude, that's very funny. And this sucks because nobody can really trust anyone else, because we're all conscious. I do stuff without you having seen me do it. I imagine you do too, right? Like, you live a life without me witnessing it. So does that mean we're real, or is one of us an NPC?
I know. The weird thing is, when you look at what they're saying just about the observer effect, that like things, even particles react a certain way when we observe them.
We've talked about this. The what is it? Refresh me. The laser, when you shine
this comes from the slit experiment, the double slit experiment. But ultimately, they're proving that the universe reacts different when you pay attention to it, and so the universe needs your attention. And the word NPC is so funny because it's like, well, somebody's still paying attention. There's still an observer. What in the universe is not being paid attention to? And I don't know. It makes me go like, oh, should we be doing experiments of paying attention to things, as a group of conscious beings?
It
Like
kind of
that
goes back to the tree in the woods, right? Like, does it make a
yeah.
sound?
But I actually think that I think it is true that like, especially now more than ever, people are competing for attention. It's an attention economy. So all these social media sites are meant to try and get you to gravitate your focus towards them. I think that we can all do that, but our big challenge is to limit that in many ways because if you just get into like political threads or environmental issues, like if you just go down that, you're going to find yourself feeling like helpless and hopeless. So
I
you've
thought
got to
about
know how to,
the
what?
opposite too. And I don't want to focus negative energy on
Wait,
things.
real quick. You've got to know how to what?
You've got to know how to like detach from that at times. Like you could be aware of it like for an hour, but if you carry it with you the entire day, then you get brain tumors. So
Okay.
you really,
Yeah.
if the more you dwell on the negative and the more you feel helpless and hopeless, I believe that's what caused my problem. I believe that I noticed the kind of person I was when I'm in alignment, meaning when I'm being creative, I'm out there with nature, I'm enjoying a loving relationship. Things just go well, and I find immense joy and fulfillment in those moments, each moment. So I don't feel like I need to engage in like, let's say, a social media war about a topic. But like when I'm not in alignment, I notice that I find my thoughts being in the past being much more negative, much more likely to you say something and I go, yeah, that's because everybody sucks and the world's falling apart and we're all doomed.
Well,
And
here's
maybe
my
those things
funny little experiments. It's like, hey, what if like we can agree that billionaires are negative for humanity? What if we all got together and like cursed one billionaire at 2 p.m. every Tuesday? Like, is that putting negative energy into the world, or is that us collectively taking down a negative energy?
I would say if you did it that way, I think there's a positive way to do it. It's the Ebenezer Scrooge way. You say, let's visualize this guy doing the right. It's the Inception way. Let's put that thought. He's just going to start giving away all his money. And look, Bill Gates is giving away all his money. So
Yeah.
some people eventually do that. I do think it's a weird time because
Yeah. At some point in Bill Gates' life, he like fell asleep and his father told him to be cool.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right, listen. We can do this all night. We do have are you gonna stick around for the bonus episode and keep talking?
Sure. Whatever it is. Yeah.
Okay, it's up to you for as long as you want to do it. We're going to continue this conversation on our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/RealLifeSciFi. And once again, the YouTube is called Cosmic Trill. I just like, okay, so what do you do on the YouTube? Just like real quick, like what do you do on the YouTube? And then also talk about your music a little bit. And where can we find that?
It's all in the same place. It's at Cosmic Trill on YouTube. And what I do is I look for just any events, like if, for example, the Dodgers come back win in the World Series, game 6 and 7, and I look for like
with
what
the
are the
biggest
moments
payroll in the MLB, by the way.
Sure, but they were on the mat like multiple times in game 6 and 7,
right.
and improbable
against
people.
The second biggest payroll in the MLB. I actually don't know. I don't know.
So there you go. Yeah, I think they're the fourth biggest Blue Jays. But anyway, I just look for stories out there that I can extract some sort of wisdom from that I could share, something that's conscious, something that's high vibe. And I just sort of like make videos about those kinds of things. Just how can I find an inspiring, empowering message in whatever event I'm looking at? Even like I just have one that I'm doing about Stranger Things, the show. Like what can you pull from that? But the music I do is I call it high vibe music because generally speaking, the lyrics are it's not over the top, like just sappy stuff. It has some edge to it sometimes, but the general feeling is it gets you excited to just live life and be in the moment. And again, for me, a lot of what I did when I was healing myself was eventually I crossed into my music again. I said, let me write songs that'll get me fired up that I can just be excited about and just because by the way, a lot of high vibe music or new age music is just supposed to be real chill. But but you see like athletes before they go out, they listen to like some song that fires them up.
DMX
So I'm like,
and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, let me find some songs that make me
or whatever the
excited to get
20. What I just listed something from fucking so long ago. God damn it!
I
Whatever
know.
the
I mean,
weekend
Willow
is doing.
Smith, she's whipping her hair. Like, that's good for
whoever it is. There's a lot of people. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, but like, so I try and
No,
find
yeah.
like, I found songs like that get me excited and let me kind of process things. And that's what I mean.
Like Mumford
My
and Sons.
I used to write songs that I feel were not, good for me. If like, because I would writing things that were more
You
negative
dive into
stuff.
the mood of what you're. It's like having depression, where you're like, this
the
feels
attention.
good right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with going through that. It's just we make a choice whether we stay in that vibration. Do we stay letting it pull us down? Because like I said, it's so easy to be like, oh, I hate my life. I heard a friend of mine say F my life. And I'm just like, that's so terrible to say that. You're given this experience. Like whatever happens. Tragedy can happen. But
I know.
It's how you respond,
I'm through the looking glass though. I don't hate my life. I could not be more bored by it. I'm so done. I'm so done with it. It's like I don't think there's any. Sorry, I don't want to get off on a thing. So
no, that's fine. We're going into that territory. The after.
I know, but we can talk about. We'll talk about it after once we wrap this up. So go to Cosmic Trill. Find all of his shit. What kind of music is it? What instrument do you play?
I play guitar, I sing, I play keyboards. It's more like pop rock with sometimes electronic elements to it. And I do some things that are very much like affirmation meditation stuff as well, because that's also where I started in this healing journey.
Like you can play it and meditate?
There's a couple of songs that are more like sort of like affirmation meditations type music, but the majority of them are songs, more like pop rock songs. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll check it out. And I encourage all of our listeners to check it out. And we're going to continue this conversation, like I said, on patreon.com/RealLifeSciFi. Dude, thank you for being here. Do you have any other thing that you want to shout out or?
No, just
your wife, Irish.
What are you trying to say? Just calling out my wife, Irish, who by the way, is when you find, I'm sure you guys both know, when you find that perfect counterpoint to you.
I don't know. I don't know.
Hopefully Willie knows. It just opens up the world. I mean, we do so much together, like all the trips we go on, they're all just hiking adventures. We'll go to like Nashville and look for the woods stuff. But it's so invigorating. And when you have someone to share it with.
I had a dream where that happened, and it's a type of love that I will never experience again.
I don't think that's true. It's only true if you want it to be true. Like we said earlier, whether you think you can or you can't.
You can't say it anymore. Yeah.
This is great. I love this. I like talking to people like you. Willie, do you want to tack anything on here before we sign off?
Well, I mean, just that, dude, thank you for sharing your story. Personally, it's this weird thing where you got to experience people telling you what you were doing wasn't working, and you still chose to believe, to follow what you thought was real. And I think that's pretty cool that you got to take that step over and you believed it strong enough to make it your reality. I mean, that's just cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean,
cool.
You have you when you have that choice where it's that black and white. You just
most people don't get to experience that.
And I could either be lobotomized or I could.
Right, I could be lobotomized or I could die.
When you get to that spot, though, a lot of people don't even have the chance to believe in something because this isn't going to work.
That's what I want to talk about. I want to get into more about like just as a little teaser for the listeners. If you're just on the fence of if you should subscribe or not, I want to talk about how you get over the barricades in your thoughts because I feel like that's 90% of the problem, but that might just be me. I don't know. So I want to talk about that.
That's everybody. We're all like part of our own programming, which comes from choices we make ever since we're kids. If we, like I mentioned, if you trip, you're clumsy. Okay, now I'm the clumsy guy. And if you accept that, you'll find a way to fall in the most awkward times.
Right.
But if you can rewrite it. You can rewrite it. Have you ever seen, we all seen the girl or guy who was super nerdy or not attractive when they were younger. And then you meet them like years later, like, what the hell? How'd they become a 10?
Mm-hmm. Like me. Something shifted. You mean like me? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so ugly before. No, I'm an
believe
Adonis.
that could be pretty.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you. We'll see you next time.
Hey.
Real life sci-fi.